right, today we are going to continue with describing shapes and objects and how that can help us to understand the world and solve problems. Today we are going to focus on 3D objects. We're still going to demonstrate an understanding of the attributes, so some of the attributes such as the number of sides, the number of vertices, the length of the vertices, demonstrate whether edges and faces are parallel, perpendicular, intersecting, horizontal, or vertical, all relating to 3D objects. Eventually you will move on to being able to draw a 3D object. This is lesson 6 in unit 6. Some of what you see today will not be in your Connect section. All right, first of all, we need to just determine what kinds of 3D objects there are. There are objects that are prisms and there are objects that are pyramids. Press pause and turn and talk to your elbow partner. Why do you think each of these are pyramids? And why do you think each of these are prisms? What is the difference? All right, so the difference being a pyramid comes to a point at the top, whereas a prism has two congruent, exactly the same sides that are joined usually by rectangles. That's the difference between a prism and a pyramid. All right, let's say we were to look at the wall in our classroom, follow the wall down to the floor. The line that meets the floor is going to be an intersecting line. So the wall intersects the floor. The wall is vertical, it is up and down. The floor is horizontal, it is side to side. We could actually say that the wall is perpendicular to the floor because in fact it does make a right angle. All right, let's take a look at this triangular prism. If the prism sits on the table, and we were talking only about edges. Now edges, remember, are the sides here. Those are our edges. We could say that the red edges, which I've now just covered with green, are all horizontal. They are running side to side. They are also parallel to each other. All of them would be parallel to each other, the same distance apart. Each blue edge is perpendicular to the red edge, so where they meet would be a right angle. Here is the very same prism, but now we're looking at faces. And faces, remember, are the entire whole side of that shape. The red rectangular face is horizontal. This whole shape runs side to side. Each blue face, a triangular face, is vertical. They are up and down. Each triangular face is perpendicular to the red rectangular face. So if you were to run across this line here, right here you would have a 90-degree angle. Both triangular faces are vertical, they're up and down, and they are also parallel to each other. That's discussing the faces. So when you're talking about a 3D shape, the way that we describe it has more to do with edges and faces than it does with sides per se. Just to review a little bit, here are some of our 3D shapes that we're going to be possibly discussing. Here's a cube, for example, and a rectangular prism, and a square-based pyramid. When we discuss a shape, we discuss its faces, its edges, and its vertices. A face, remember, is the entire side. An edge is just one side. So here we're talking about looking at 4 edges, for example, and a vertex is just the corner where they meet. Some shapes, such as cones and cylinders, don't really have much in the way of faces, edges, or vertices. So for example, a cylinder would have 2 faces, just the top and the bottom. A cone would only have 1 face. They don't really have a whole lot of edges, just the edge that's along the face, but nothing there that would be perpendicular or even intersecting per se, because they're not straight. And vertexes, the cone would only have 1 vertex. All right, to practice, you're going to try with these shapes. Unfortunately, it went very gray. I hope you can see it. Give it a try. All right, for the first one, what type of a figure is this object? Well, it is a cube. How many faces does it have? 1, 2, 3, 4 along the sides, a top and a bottom. 6 faces. How many edges? Now that can be a bit tricky. Edges, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We've already counted this one. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 edges. Vertices are the corners. How many corners does it have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then back here 8. What type of surfaces does it have? Well, its surfaces are square. Looking at this next shape, it is a pyramid. A pyramid is usually named by the base of its shape, and this pyramid would be either rectangular or square. It's a little hard to tell. I would say it's a square-based pyramid. How many edges does it have? 1, 2, 3, 4 around the top, 5, 6, 7, 8 along the bottom. How many triangles make up this figure? Well, let's take a look here. Each of the sides around the outside are triangles, so 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 triangles. How many rectangles? 1. So I guess it's a rectangular based pyramid. How many faces in total? Well, there's 4 triangular and 1 flat. So we would have 5 faces altogether, and vertices 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 as well. Lastly, we have this object, which we call a cylinder. How many circles does it have? Well, it has 2. What types of surfaces does it have? It would have circles, and I guess this big one, if you were to spread it out into a net, would be a long rectangle. All right, at this point we are moving on to ways to draw 3D shapes. When you are doing prisms, what you need to do is you draw your front face. So say, for example, we were trying to draw this trapezoid prism. You would draw your front face. Then you would move on to drawing your back face. They need to be congruent, so you need to make them as much the same size as you can. And it's better if you can draw one up and over a little bit. Make sure that the faces are parallel, so those lines are the same distance apart. And then what you do is you join the same corners on that shape. And that will give you your prism. Drawing pyramids can be a little bit trickier. You start with your base, whatever your base happens to be. I'm going to go with a rectangular base. And then right midpoint above, you would put your vertice, and then you would join all your corners with a ruler. Sorry, I can't put a ruler on the iPad, to get your vertex at the top. At this point, you are moving on to your concept practice. Page 244, just number 2, and 248, numbers 2 and 3. Of course, make sure if you have any questions that you always remember to ask.